Hello and welcome back to live coverage of the Apex Gaming $5,000 Team Modern Trios here in sunny Caldwell, Ohio. I'm Todd Tandy Anderson, joined by Ross Merriam. Say hi, Ross.
Hi, Ross.
We had a pretty interesting round number one. We saw one Goryo's deck kind of fail and another Goryo's deck kind of crush, but they were on opposite sides, so that was like a pretty easy 2-0, it looked like.
Yeah, it really came down to Anthony Brown's deck having the fair game plan.
Yeah.
It wasn't full on Esper Gorios, whereas Justin Sau was much more committed to it when he had was facing down the Graveyard Hate and other disruption. It was a lot more problematic. Whereas Brown is able to function just as an Orzhov Blink deck and really took over the game that way, even though he ended the game with the Gorios on Atraxa. Corey being very prescient in the booth, calling that one out.
All right, well, we are moving on to round number 2 of 6 of Swiss. We're going to bring you all 6 Swiss rounds and the top 8, so 9 total rounds of Magic for you. The players are in the feature match area, and so we're not going to make them wait too long, but I want Ross to go over the players real quick and the matchup we're going to be watching specifically.
So, in the feature match area, this round, we have a team that made the semifinals yesterday. That's Charles Eiler, Derek Davis, and Richard Adams. They're going to be playing Levi Gaines, Lucas Parson, and Heath Vance. We will be starting in the middle match of those three. That is Derek Davis against Lucas Parson. Davis on Esper Ketramose, one of the more played decks in the room. I think one of the better decks in the metagame. Lucas Parson also on a very strong deck in Domain Zoo.
Yep.
So really, I think this is a matchup where the consigned memories from Lucas Parson are actually very important because he can consign those Solitude triggers. Solitude is a very important removal spell for Derek Davis in this matchup. So I'm looking over Parsons' list, has one main deck consigned to memory, 2 more in the sideboard. A little bit lighter. Some lists have multiple consigns in the main. For this matchup, I would have liked to see those. But other than that, pretty stock lists on both sides. So I think both players just coming prepared with very strong decks, and we're going to see a really drag down, knock 'em out match.
All right, here's my question. The Esper Ketramose deck, it's playing 4 Psychic Frog, right?
Indeed. That's
How
the
many
only blue card in the main.
How many planes and how many Witch Enchanters are in the deck?
2 planes and 3 Witch Enchanter.
All right,
Out of
we'll see,
20
we'll see if it comes up.
There's 23 total lands if you include DFCs. So it's 18 sources for Psychic Frog. That is a little low. Normally you'd like to be about 20 or 21 to cast it consistently on turn 2. But this is not a deck that necessarily needs to cast Frog on turn 2.
That's definitely true. I mean, if you have Ketramose in play and you play Frog on turn 4, you just immediately get to draw like 5 cards or whatever. So
yeah.
I get it.
You're often casting things like Philia and Overlord on turn 2. So yeah, I think it's a little dubious to be playing it with that.
It's very common. It's just it's something that's very common, and it bothers me. I don't know why.
I will say that Derek Davis has been pretty conservative with the blue splash. It's 4 Frog in the main, 4 consigned memory in the sideboard. The 2 best blue cards probably in all of Modern. He's just splashing for those.
Yeah. All right.
Not getting queued, no Teferis or no other counter spells. Just play the good cards and make your mana as consistent as you can under those constraints.
All right, well, the players are ready to go, so let's head on down to the feature match area for round number 2. All right, the Lucas Parsons team's there in the middle. Parsons team's going to be on the left, Derek Davis team on the right. We are about ready to go. Turn 1 Shadowy Backstreet from Derek Davis. He's going to be on the play, put Solitude into the grave, pass it back to Lucas. Solitude, one of the better cards in this style of deck, right? So maybe he already has a Solitude. Let's get life totals updated real quick. We have Solitude in hand maybe, or maybe just need lands.
Yeah, definitely. Several reasons that Davis could put that in the graveyard. Also, doesn't know the matchup necessarily. At this point, might think it's Boros Energy with a Sacred Foundry Ragavan start for Lucas Parson.
All right, yeah, that turn 1 Ragavan from Parson is pretty scary if Davis doesn't have the Fatal Push or another type of removal spell here. If this Ragavan connects, it could be bad news.
Just a tapped land for Derek Davis on turn 2 with that Witch Blessed Meadow, but does have Fatal Push for Ragavan. Okay, so he's staying at parity here. Going to be very important for Davis to not fall behind. The Zoo deck is very aggressive, can close out games very easily, can slam the door very easily if you let it get ahead. So he can't give Lucas Parson an inch, and he needs to be very careful in the early turns because once this game goes long, it's the Ketramose deck that has a way more card advantage.
Agree. Interesting spot there. Derek waited till combat to kill the Ragavan. That's something that you like to do a lot against Boros, so they can't dash a Ragavan on turn number 2. But if Lucas had a blue source there pre-combat and a Stubborn Denial, he could have really punished Derek.
Yeah, this is a matchup where that play is quite risky, but no punish, just a territorial Kavu is the follow-up for Parson.
That's a big boy. He's only a 3/3 right now, I believe, but will likely grow to a 5 next turn. Maybe do some rummaging. We'll see if Derek has an answer for it. Derek consulting with a teammate here. One of the best parts about playing team events is if you have a really tough decision, you got two buds that can give you some help. It's not always going to be the right answer, but it might be better than your answer.
Interesting that Parson had to fetch for a Temple Garden there to play the Kavu. No breeding pool in the mana base. So unable to get to 4 colors for domain, which is usually where you want to be on turn 2.
All right, Thoughtseize is the cast for Derek Davis to lead off his turn. Does see the Stubborn Denial, so Parsons maybe with a minor misstep, but the Arid Mesa couldn't get a breeding pool anyway. I'm curious, like, what land he could have gotten.
Could have gotten Steam Vents. Stubborn Denial, then used the treasure for green.
Okay.
Now just doesn't have a blue source for the Stubborn Denial at all.
Wow. This Thoughtseize is looking at a hand of Lightning Bolt, Tribal Flames, Flage, a lot of burn, and then that Stubborn Denial and a Blood Crypt with no blue source. And Lightning Bolt is going to be the peel. And we'll see if Davis can kill this Kavu or if it's going to chunk in for at least 4 damage.
Yeah. Kavu and the Flage are the 2 threats that Davis has to answer. And there's a ton of direct damage from Parson with Flage Hardcast and Tribal Flames, so Davis has to be very protective of his life total.
Lucas doesn't play a land pre-combat, wants to loot first, so we're not going to do quite as much damage as we could have by playing the breeding or the Blood Crypt, but maybe looking for a blue source to protect with Stubborn Denial and finds it.
Yeah, rummages away the Flage, so now that's in the graveyard, ready to escape. And has another Kavu.
Ooh, it's getting spicy.
Okay, well, Derek Davis has officially fallen quite far behind
Yes.
in this game, so things looking a little grim. I will say, there's 1 copy of Wrath of the Skies in Davis's main deck, so if he has that and can find land 4,
he can run it right into a Stubborn Denial.
True.
That's what that Parson with that stub now is looking pretty juicy. Even like Solitude Ephemerate, not quite good enough to get both done thanks to the Stubborn Denial. We'll see if Derek can find a way out of it. Back Derek Davis's way. Facing down a tough one. Tribal Flames in hand for Parsons. That's representing 5 potential damage next turn.
Yeah, this could be lethal. 2 5/5 Kavus and 5 damage from Tribal Flames with Stubborn Denial backup.
Davis with a slow draw. Looking over at his teammates' matches. Looking for some help.
Looking over, hoping they're winning.
Oh, actually, it looks like it's Lucas's teammate that's asking for help. So Derek here just kind of looking over and watching the match as well. All right. Derek draws the card for turn. I see a Solitude poking out of there, so here's Flutterstrand fetching down to 13, maybe 11 if he's going to get a shock. Or maybe life totals weren't quite updated correctly. Here's Watery Grave, needed that blue source. Maybe Psychic Frog coming.
I don't know how many cards are left in hand for Derek. Gonna need a lot to make that frog a relevant threat.
See what you got, Derek. Maybe just didn't have a blue source and wanted to get it for later, but maybe goes for the Wrath of the Skies here. I don't know. Luke is definitely not feeling any pressure, though.
Emperor of Bones with the Solitude in the graveyard, but instead goes after Flage to stop that threat.
Okay, and he does pay. That is gonna. He said deal 3 to the Kavu, but it's not going to kill it.
Kavu's a 4/4.
Okay, and now if we play this Blood Crypt, we just have to chump block. And the Flage does get exiled permanently after it goes back. I believe it gets a finality counter. That's how the Emperor Bones works. Okay, here's Blood Crypt. Kavu's going to go up to a 5/5. We can Tribal Flames down the blocker and then attack for 10, or we can just force a chump block. We found Sign of Draco, so now they have Trample.
Now the chump block is forced, and Davis will still take 6.
And Solitude's going to get eaten by one of the Kavu. And then Fatal Push for the other.
Yeah.
Not choosing to discard either of these two perfects.
Yeah, Parson loves his hand, so might as well just get the Solitude exiled for future Emperor of Bones or an Overlord. Make sure that never comes back.
Well, this is a force block from Derek if he doesn't have Solitude in hand, but I'm pretty sure he does have Solitude in hand. I think he's just trying to figure out the best approach because, man, Lucas Parson going turn 2 Kavu, turn 3 Kavu, turn 4 Sign of Draco, having Stubborn Denial backup on turns 3 and 4, just really, really stunning.
This is exactly how the Zoo deck wants to play out. Very hard to answer threats, just keeps coming at you, and once they get ahead, they have reach with Tribal Flames and protection with Stubborn Denial. Really just had every piece that he needed.
All right, here's Solitude. Going to eat one of the Kavu, going to take 5. Derek down to 6 life, I believe. No,
yeah, he was at 14.
Oh,
so down to
me.
9.
Sorry. All right. It's like 16 to 9 after the dust settles. Now Parsons has the option to Tribal Flames now to kill the Emperor of Bones. And he's not going to do it. Smart play, I think. Derek Davis, I believe, drew a land. That should be game over. Packs it in. Game 1 goes to Lucas Parson. The Domain Zoo deck looking pretty spicy.
And that's how you draw it up for Domain Zoo. You really never want to take your foot off the gas, because once you do, and the Orzhov deck can start drawing extra cards, the Zoo deck doesn't have much in the way of card advantage to keep up. It's trying to just end games with Flage. So really everything goes according to plan for Parson. Davis did not have the necessary removal early on, and he wins a pretty straightforward game.
I mean, he had turn 1 Fatal Push, turn 2 Thoughtseize, turn 3 something, turn 4 something, turn 5 something, right? Or didn't do it. Yeah. He conceded on turn 5, but
just didn't have any way to, either clear the board or start developing his own threat. Something like Flicker Wisp and Overlord would have been great. Really just kind of had some 1-for-1s and ran out of gas.
Yeah. All right, well, these players are going to be reaching for their sideboard for some help. Derek Davis's side of things with that Esper Ketramose deck, how is he going to be siding for this matchup, Ross?
So his sideboard is 1 Celestial Purge, 2 Clarion Conqueror, 4 Consign to Memory, 2 High Noon, 1 Strategic Betrayal, 3 White Orchid Phantom, and 2 Wrath of the Skies. I think the Celestial Purge is excellent. It can hit Leyline, it can hit Kavu, it can hit Rogovan, it can hit Flage. Plenty of targets for that. I think the Strategic Betrayal is also pretty good. The Zoo deck is not known for spreading the battlefield wide with smaller creatures. It more has 1 or 2 big creatures, so Betrayal should get something valuable, and exiling the graveyard for Flage is relevant as well. The interesting cards in the sideboard are White Orchid Phantom and Consign to Memory. There are a couple basics in the mana base for Lucas Parson, a Mountain and a Plains, and that's pretty stock for Zoo. Derek Davis, not his first rodeo. He knows what these Zoo decks look like. So he'll have to make a judgment as to whether that's too many basics to make White Orchid Phantom effective. And then Consign to Memory has always been an interesting one against Zoo. It doesn't stop much, but the cards it does stop are quite important. Scion of Draco, you can counter it even if they have a turn 0 Leyline with the Guild Pact, which would otherwise make the Scion very difficult to answer. And then Leyline Binding being a triggered ability.
That's the big one for me.
Binding on one of your creatures. So I don't think you would ever want all 4 consigns, but it could be a card Derek wants in small numbers.
Yeah. On the other side of things, Lucas Parsons with that Domain Zoo deck, does it have anything specific for this Esper Ketramose matchup, or is this kind of just like a very light sideboarding situation?
Lucas's sideboard is 1 Celestial Purge, 2 Clarion Conqueror, 2 Consign to Memory, 2 High Noon, a Mystical Dispute, 2 Nile Spellbomb, a Pyroclasm, a Stubborn Denial, a Wear Tear, and 2 Wrath of the Skies. Once again, I think Celestial Purge is excellent. It hits Psychic Frog, and it hits Overlord.
And Ketramose.
And Ketramose, yeah. Very high leverage threats there, even if the deck is more white than black. So the Purge should be coming in. The rest of the sideboard isn't great for this matchup. So I think it'll be very light sideboarding for Lucas Parson.
Do you think he brings in consigns to stop like the Solitude triggers and things
Yeah,
like that?
I would certainly, even stopping Overlord triggers, stopping, Flicker Wisp triggers, anything like that can be relevant in this matchup. Solitude is definitely at the top of that list. I think you'll see the other counter spells come out. The 2 Stubborn Denials, the Spectral Denial, they'll come out for the Celestial Purge and the 2 Consigns, but I think that's all I would do.
All right. Well, as these players are finishing shuffling up and sideboarding, I'd like to take this time to say thank you to some sponsors for Apex Con and this weekend's festivities here in sunny Caldwell, Ohio. We're sponsored by Moxfield. Moxfield is a great deck building website, moxfield.com, and it is a great place to build and share decks with your friends. They are working with SpiceRack.gg, one of our other sponsors, to post all of our deck lists on Moxfield from this weekend. Yesterday's standard 5K deck list and today's modern 5K deck list will hopefully all be available to the public within the week. We're sponsored by Ultimate Guard, the industry leader when it comes to TCG supplies from... let's just skip it. Let's back to the match because we are already underway. All right, so Parsons here going to lead off with that Leyline of the Guild Pact. So many of his cards are going to be turned on where they previously might not have been. Flooded Strands and the other fetch lands can tap for mana. That's why you see it cast into Rogman. Back Derek Davis's way for turn number 2.
Davis just had Meticulous Archive turn 1. Looks like an Ephemerate went to the graveyard off that Surreal.
Could be Ephemerate, could be Fatal Push. Alternate art, 1-drop, some kind.
Brickmaster Flex just gifted 5 subs.
Yo, Brickmaster Flex, thanks for the gifted subs. Appreciate you. Why didn't we get a notification? Did we turn those off? Uh-oh. Sorry about that. Thank you so much for the support. Turn 2, Psychic Frog for Derek Davis, and that one's going to look pretty strong against the burn-based removal from this Domain Zoo deck. Oh, but we have the Leyline binding for it.
Okay, so that clears the way for this Rogovan. Things going very well for Lucas Parson to start this game as well. Does he have a follow-up? Kavu with the treasure, but he put himself in an awkward position.
I was about to say the same thing.
If Derek Davis can answer the Leyline of the Guild Pact, that Kavu will die. It'll become a 0/0. You always want to leave one land with a land type on the battlefield with Territorial Kavu, just to make sure you don't get 2-for-1 in that way.
We'll see if
Davis
it bites
punish him.
Even something like Flicker Wisp to remove the Leyline for a moment would kill the Kavu as well.
Yeah, Flicker Wisp would do it. The Celestial Purge out of the sideboard would do it. If he has Flicker Wisp and Witch Enchanter, he can play Witch Bless Meadow, then blink out the Witch, and on end step have an extra blocker for the Rogovan and kill the Leyline permanently along with the Kavu. A lot of potentially strong plays here for Derek Davis.
I'm going to start off here. Going to Fatal Push the Territorial Kavu.
Well, no punish for Parson, just trades the Kavu for a removal spell. And now Davis still doesn't have an answer to the Rogovan.
Okay, well, sometimes Rogovan goes unchecked, and those games are some of the most fun you can play. Not only do you get extra mana, but sometimes you get a free card off the top of the opponent's deck. We hit a Solitude and Fatal Push. Normally would have been okay to good, but no targets here for him. So we just get that treasure. We'll see if Parson can make good use of that treasure. Here's Thundering Falls. Top card. Going to go to the graveyard. It looks like an Arena of Glory. Okay. Relic of Progenitor is also going to kind of stifle the ability of Flage to take over a long game. So if Davis is able to contain this Rogovan, even with just a blocker, might be in good shape.
Yeah, no follow-up threat for Parson after losing the Territorial Kavu, so just the Rogovan on the battlefield that Davis has to contend with. That is very good news for Derek Davis.
We fetch here Flooded Strand. Davis going to go to 14. Parson's still at a pristine 20 thanks to Leyline of the Guild Pact.
And that's one of the weaknesses of this Domain Zoo deck. They oftentimes deal themselves a lot of damage with their lands. It makes it easier to turn the corner on them. But with Leyline of the Guild Pact, that downside is mitigated.
I think the same is true for Splashing Blue in the Ketramose deck as well. Having to fetch that Watery Grave last game, dealt Derek an extra couple damage. And I'm sure at various points the extra splash is going to punish him. Okay. But, you get to play Psychic Frog and Consign, so
it's worth it.
I agree.
Ketramose here, the cast for Derek Davis, and with the Relic of Progenitus already on the battlefield, he is threatening to draw a lot of cards and turn that Ketramose into a blocker very quickly. counting 4 cards in graveyard for Davis, 1 for Parsons, and there's already 2 cards in exile. So if Davis just pops the relic for 1, he can get to that 7 cards in exile for the Ketramose immediately. So this Ketramose is a huge threat for Parson. Does he have another Leyline Binding or that sideboard Celestial Purge in order to answer it?
So I saw a Wear Tear hanging out in Parsons' hand, so I think he's considering killing this relic in response to the Ketramose. It looks like we are going to do just that. Derek can exile it to draw a card and exile the graveyards, which he's going to do. The Wear Tear will go to the graveyard. We'll draw a card from the relic, and now Ketramose is in play.
And there's exactly 7 cards in exile, so it is a blocker. But no card advantage engine online for Davis. If the relic had resolved, Davis could have tapped it, targeting himself, exile a card, then exile the relic and drawn 3 cards. Because the relic exiles itself as part of a cost. Then you draw a card before the ability resolves. Then the ability resolves, exiles more cards from the graveyard. You get another card that way as well.
How many total?
It would have been 3.
So you tap it, you draw.
Yeah.
You spend 1
you
draw,
to
and exile stuff you draw. And you exile multiple cards with the ability, right?
You still just get the 1 card.
So
this is 1 or more.
Okay. Anyway, here's Overlord of the Bailmerk. Hardcast. Parsons has consign. We're going to use it to stop the trigger.
Yeah, but it's still a 5/5 that's going to trigger when it attacks next turn. And this is the downside of the Zoo deck. Parson had plenty of threats in game 1, was able to keep the pressure on with those Kavus and the Scion. In this game, just had the 1 Kavu and the Ragavan, no follow-ups, and now the card advantage from the Ketramose deck is taking over.
Parsons going to fetch a Plains here. Maybe just thinning the deck. Derek Davis going to be gaining a bunch of life over the next few turns thanks to the lifelink on the Ketramose. Parsons' deck, plays Tribal Flames, plays Lightning Bolts. These cards are significantly weaker in spots like this because Ketramose not only has lifelink, but it also has Indestructible.
Yeah, it needs to find more Leyline Bindings and Celestial Purges for this battlefield, though Tribal Flames would take out the Overlord.
Parsons attacks with Ragavan, signifying maybe a Lightning Bolt or just digging for something. Parsons could also be bluffing. Has the bolts.
100% it was a bolt.
I mean, he's losing so badly that I wouldn't be surprised if he attacked, essentially presenting bolt as the option and hoping to find, Solitude off the opponent's side.
Derek Davis played into the Lightning Bolt because he didn't care if the the Overlord died, has the Emperor Bones to follow up. And now, out of the way, the Emperor Bones is going to live. That will immediately exile the Overlord, and now he'll adapt even before attackers are declared. This is going to be 2 Overlord triggers, 1 for entering and 1 when it attacks.
We'll get Ophelia off the first one.
That's a great hit.
Now we swing in for 10. Parsons with no blocker is going to go to 5 life.
9, right? 5/5 Overlord, 4/4 Ketramose.
I thought Ketramose was a 5/4 for some reason. I've played with that card a lot, too.
And there's a Solitude off the attack trigger from Overlord. So Solitude, Ophelia in hand. Those are excellent leftovers. I think we are going to be heading to a game 3 very shortly here.
All right, Parsons. 1 more draw. Let's see if you got it. Starting to look like a game 3, but Lucas hasn't quite packed it up yet. Says go. Here's Ophelia. And that's going to do it. Parsons defeated. We're going to be moving to a game number 3 between Domain Zoo and Esper Ketramose. Well, that game, I think, a complete opposite of the previous game. Derek Davis not only had an answer early, but also just had threats, right? The Ketramose was a huge deal, unkillable.
Yeah, the Ketramose and the Overlord, threats that generate card advantage.
Yeah.
The Zoo deck doesn't have those. Its threats are difficult to answer, and in game 1, Derek wasn't able to answer them. In game 2, he was. That's the real difference.
Now, it's also important to note that Davis has threats that require specific answers, right? And early on, that Psychic Frog bit the bullet on a leyline binding, but that made it so that something like Ketramose would stick around. It's overloading the potent removal from Lucas's side.
Yeah, most of the time, those 2-mana creatures you're able to answer with something like a Lightning Bolt.
Yeah.
Wasn't able to do that. Also notable that Parsons drew the sideboard Wear Tear in that game too, so that came in out of the board. Not a lot of targets in the deck for Wear Tear. I think it's just the one relic.
Interesting.
And Overlord, okay. Overlord being an enchantment. So really just valuing answering Overlord, and honestly, I can't blame him for that. Every time you play against this deck, you feel bad killing the Impended Overlord because it already got a card and it's not attacking or blocking yet.
Yeah.
But I promise you, you have to kill it. Eventually, they're going to blink it, and that gets way worse.
All right, as these players are shuffling up for game number 3, the final game of this match, I'd like to take this time to say thanks to some of our sponsors for this weekend's festivities. Thanks to Ultimate Guard, the industry leader when it comes to TCG supplies. From the Katana sleeves to the Archive deck box, check your local game store for Ultimate Guard products today. Players are drawing their openers, so let's head on down. Game number 3 coming. This is a team event, so even if Derek Davis loses this game and Lucas Parsons wins this game in the match, they still have to have one of their teammates win as well. One of the beautiful things about team tournaments is that your teammates can carry you when you're falling behind.
Yeah, looks like Charles Eiler's match is over. He's sitting there watching, and I can see through the window here that Eiler's opponent is also watching.
All right, well, we'll get confirmation from our spotter on who won that match so we know the weight of this match in just a moment.
Yeah, unclear. I can't see anybody from the Heath Vance Richard Adams match.
Turn 1 Ragavan from Lucas Parsons may go unchecked again if we don't have Solitude here. Davis has the Solitude and is forced to use it now because Scion of Draco was about to grant protection to that Ragavan, and now though Davis gonna have to deal with a 4/4 unkillable Flying Vigilance Lifelinker.
Yeah, we'll need to find an answer to 2 ley lines or the 1 strategic betrayal out of the sideboard. If he has that 1 strategic betrayal, it could be huge here.
Can we get the spotter confirmation on the winner of the other match, please?
And answering 2 ley lines, it's not undoable for Derek Davis, but it'll take a while. He needs to blink Witch Enchanter a couple times, or get up to 6 mana for a Wrath of the Skies.
Look, Witch Enchanter, a huge part of this strategy, giving you the ability to flicker with stuff, but also use Ephemerate to continue blasting. Okay, so
Charles Eiler taking the backup match down.
And that's the teammate of Derek Davis, so their side is currently up a match.
Affinity defeating Boros Energy in the hands of Levi Gaines.
Godless Shrine the play on turn number 2 for Derek Davis. Had to pitch that powerful Ketramose to the Solitude. Now we have Celestial Purge to kill 1 ley line. So okay. 1 ley line down.
1 down, 1 to go. And if Davis has something like Witchblessed Meadow, Flicker Wisp, he could do it next turn.
Turn 3 for Parson. Going to smoosh in for 4, gain 4. It is all colors thanks to the Leyline of the Guild Pact, which means that it has First Strike, Trample, Flying, Vigilance, Hexproof, right?
Lifelink, Vigilance, Hexproof. It has Flying itself. It doesn't get Flying.
Ah, right.
Blue is the blue ability
Hexproof.
for the Hexproof. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, no land for Parson and no threat. I think I saw a pair of lightning bolts hanging out over there. I'm curious what the other card is. Back to Derek Davis for turn number 3. See if he has that Witchblessed Meadow, the Witch Enchanter backside, like Ross was hinting at.
I mean, he needs to kill this ley line and answer this Scion as quickly as possible. Because there's a ton of burn in the Domain Zoo deck. Flage, Lightning Bolt, Tribal Flames. So your life total matters a lot. And this Scion will be plunking in every single turn for 4 points at a time. That's an Emperor of Bones. That's really not much help right now.
Mm-hmm. Parsons going to read it. The adaptability is interesting. You can bolt it once they pay the adapt, but can they pay the adapt cost a second time before the first one resolves?
Correct.
Okay.
As long as it doesn't have counters, adapt will give it counters.
All right, so Derek, I think actually, uh, like, did he exile the Celestial
He
Purge?
did.
Okay.
Wants to keep the Solitude in the graveyard for now.
Why not just play it post combat? Oh, because you want to get exile more cards for Ketramose to be a natural creature.
Probably, yeah,
Okay.
that makes sense.
Okay.
And you can always say, I want to keep
Post-combat.
cards in graveyard to exile for Ketramose to draw cards, but Davis might not have that luxury. If his
Mhm.
life total is under that much pressure, every card draw with Ketramose is a lost life. He just needs to get to 7 cards in exile and get a life linker, and that will somewhat contain the Scion of Draco and give him some time to find an answer to the second ley line.
We're going to fire off a bolt on the Emperor of Bones to make sure no tricksy business happens. And we are going to smash in for 4 with Sign of Draco, gain 4 more life. I'm going to pass back to Derek's way.
So Davis down to 10 and now fetching to 9.
Quick fetch for the 4th mana. This might be a Witch Enchanter from hand.
Yeah, Witch Enchanter from hand would get him there, and then maybe a Solitude could deal with the Scion right now and keep Davis out of Tribal Flames range. Or maybe just puts himself in it and hopes the Flames isn't there. Yeah, there's a Witch Enchanter, so both ley lines are down. Now the Scion is vulnerable, but Davis has no available mana.
Okay.
Big turn. Does Parson have a way to close out this game?
Is that
Nope.
2 more ley lines in hand for Parsons by chance?
Okay, there is a Solitude pitching a Ketramose.
Wow.
Parson has no protection, so Scion of Draco, exiled. Parson up to 7 million life, approximately.
Yeah. But no cards in hand for Derek Davis is all empty, and Parsons, no threats. I believe he drew Consign to Memory, and he has a Lightning Bolt, and then 2 other cards that I can't quite see.
Parson with no threats, and also very awkward mana here.
Yeah.
Mountain Thundering Falls, only 2 colors, only 2 basic land types. He kept his hand on the strength of those early ley lines, and now that they're gone, his hand looks quite bad.
Yeah. Derek was able to basically use all parts of his opener, going empty on turn 4 to kill 2 ley lines, a Scion, and a Ragavan. Really nice sequence for Derek, and we'll see if he's able to find some sort of engine to get card advantage again. But here's a Flicker Wisp, and we're going to blink the Shadowy Backstreet so we get an extra Surveil. One of the nicer parts of Flicker Wisp, you almost always have something great to target.
Let's try to find his next threat. Something like an Overlord would be excellent.
All right, if Lucas consigned the Flicker Wisp second trigger, does that land ever come back? Is there like a delayed re-triggering on the next end step or something?
You can consign the return, I believe.
And it'll just be gone forever?
No, it's all one trigger. So if you counter the trigger, it would just never get exiled.
So what if you don't counter? Is it not a counter on or a trigger on the end step to come back?
It is an at. Yeah, it's a delayed trigger. So yeah, you can counter the delayed trigger.
Okay.
It's
So we could have used a little consign as like a land destruction effect there against Derek if we wanted to, but maybe saving it for something a little more important.
like this Overlord of the Belmark. Okay, so the other backup match, that was Richard Adams against Heath Vance, going to Heath Vance on the team with Parsons and Gaines. So the match score is tied 1-1. This is game 3. This is going to determine who gets to 2-0 and who falls to 1-1.
Lucas finds a fetch land, fetches quickly, moving with gusto. We'll see if he found another burn spell to finish the game here. Derek
Should
at
be
6.
either Temple Garden or Indatha Triome, I would guess. Temple Garden if he wants the green or white mana immediately. Indatha if he just wants to get full domain.
My guess is the Temple Garden if he's casting something this turn, but gets planes to protect life total. Gonna go Flage Face, and he has Lightning Bolt and Hand Ross. So if Derek Davis isn't able to gain life this turn, he may be dead. Did we see what creature he got back off of the Overlord, or was that countered?
That was
via
countered by the
consign?
consign.
Awesome. Davis draws.
And when the Flage goes upstairs, you gotta know there's more burn coming. Otherwise, Parsons could have easily just killed one of the creatures. So I think Davis sees the writing on the wall here. He did a really good job of trying to get back into this game.
Well, he doesn't even play the bolt, just goes for the Flage from the graveyard. Davis doesn't have the answer. Lucas Parsons and team wins the match.
Yeah, it just took Derek Davis a little bit too long to answer both Leyline of the guild packs. If it was a one Leyline draw from Parson, I think that outcome of that game would have been quite different because Davis would have stabilized at a significantly higher life total. Now, that Flage still might have been a problem, escaped from the graveyard, but definitely the game would have played out differently and more in Davis's favor.